Agnetha Fältskog is 76. Try not to gasp when you see her today, 2026. I wasn't expecting to be emotional. I thought I was just going to see a new photo of Agnetha Fältskog and remember a few ABBA songs. Instead, I found myself thinking about what it means to grow older without losing the one thing that made people fall in love with you in the first place. There are some voices that don't belong to a single decade. You hear them once, and somehow they're attached to your memories forever. For millions of people, that's exactly what Agnetha Fältskog became. Not just a member of ABBA, not just another pop singer. She became part of the soundtrack to people's lives. What's remarkable is that, at 76, she's still adding new chapters instead of simply living off old ones. And honestly, I didn't expect that. When people remember ABBA, they usually picture glittering costumes, huge stadiums, and songs everyone still knows by heart. But before any of that happened, Agnetha's world looked very different. She grew up in the Swedish town of Jönköping, in a working-class family where music wasn't a celebrity dream. It was simply part of everyday life. She started writing little melodies almost as soon as she could reach the piano. By the time she was 5 years old, she was already creating songs. That surprised me. Most children are learning nursery rhymes. She was already writing them. She wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing music. By 15, she had left school to focus completely on singing and songwriting. Looking back, that was an enormous gamble. It worked. Her first solo album arrived in 1968 when she was only 18. Sweden immediately noticed something different about her. Her voice wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it felt honest, soft, crystal clear, the kind of voice that didn't need tricks to stand out. Then everything changed with one performance, Eurovision. ABBA stepped onto the stage with Waterloo. The rest feels almost impossible to describe because success arrived so quickly. Within only a few years, songs like Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, and The Winner Takes It All weren't just chart hits. They became part of popular culture itself. Even today, decades later, people who weren't even born during ABBA's peak know those songs. That's incredibly rare. Here's something I don't think enough people appreciate. While the world saw glamour, Agnetha often experienced something completely different. Fame isn't always joyful. Sometimes it's exhausting. After ABBA eventually came to an end in the early 1980s, she quietly stepped away. Not because she had stopped loving music, because she needed to protect herself. She struggled with anxiety. She dealt with depression. Flying became something she feared. Instead of constantly chasing another hit record, she chose something Hollywood rarely rewards: privacy. I actually respect that decision more now than I probably would have years ago. So many celebrities spend their lives trying to stay visible. Agnetha did the opposite. She disappeared from the spotlight. Not forever, just long enough to breathe. For nearly 2 decades, there was no rush to prove anything. No desperate attempt to stay trendy. No endless reinvention. She simply lived her life. There's something refreshing about that. Then, quietly, she returned. Not with a giant comeback tour. Not with controversy. Just music. Her album My Coloring Book reminded people that her voice hadn't lost its warmth. Later came her most successful solo album in the United Kingdom. Listening to it, I realized something. She wasn't trying to compete with younger artists. She sounded exactly like herself. That takes confidence. And then came something very few people expected. ABBA reunited. Not in the traditional way. The Voyage project blended technology with music, introducing a whole new generation to songs their parents and grandparents had loved for decades. I remember thinking how unusual it was. Most reunion projects feel nostalgic. This one somehow felt futuristic. It reminded everyone why those songs never really disappeared. Now, in 2026, Agnetha has reached another milestone. At 76 years old, she's releasing new music once again. Not a greatest hits package, not another collection of old recordings. new songs, fresh ideas. Her latest album, simply titled A, reminds listeners that creativity doesn't suddenly stop because birthdays keep arriving. The lead single arrived with a brand new music video, and hearing her voice again is almost surreal. It still carries that unmistakable warmth. It still feels gentle. Most importantly, it still sounds authentic. One thing that really stood out to me is that she isn't pretending to be 25 again. She isn't chasing whatever trend happens to dominate streaming platforms this month. She's singing as someone who's actually lived. There's wisdom in that. The songs don't sound nostalgic. They sound comfortable, like someone who's finally making music entirely on her own terms. People often ask why certain artists remain beloved while others slowly fade away. I think Agnetha's career offers part of the answer.